You have spent too much of your life trying to keep people who were perfectly comfortable losing you. You chased explanations. You waited for replies. You lowered your standards. You gave second chances to people who barely gave you a first thought. And somewhere in the process of trying to stay important to them, you became less important to yourself. That ends here. Detachment is not becoming cold. It is realizing that your life should not collapse every time someone changes, leaves, ignores you, or stops choosing you. It is learning to remove your hands from what you cannot control and return your attention to the one person you abandoned while chasing everyone else, yourself. Because the moment you stop begging people to stay, something powerful happens. You finally begin to come back to yourself. Chapter 1. Stop chasing what has already shown you its direction. One of the hardest truths to accept is that people usually communicate through behavior long before they communicate through words. The problem is not that the signs are always hidden. The problem is that we often do not want to believe what the signs are telling us. Someone says they care about you, but you constantly feel ignored. Someone says you matter, but you repeatedly feel like an option. Someone says they are too busy to talk, but somehow they always find time for the things they truly want. Someone says they do not want to lose you, yet they make almost no effort to protect the relationship. And this is where confusion begins. Their words tell you one thing. Their behavior tells you another. Because their words sound more comforting, you keep holding on to them. You tell yourself that maybe they really do care. Maybe they are just stressed. Maybe they are overwhelmed. Maybe they do not know how to express themselves. Maybe they have been hurt before. Maybe they are afraid of getting close. Maybe next week will be different. Maybe after work becomes easier, they will give you more time. Maybe when their problems settle down, they will finally show up for you. So you wait. Then waiting turns into chasing. You become the person who keeps the connection alive. You send the first message. You make the plans. You check whether everything is okay. You repair the tension. You forgive quickly. You explain why you were hurt. You make excuses for behavior that keeps repeating. You begin doing the emotional work of two people. At first, you may not even notice it. You think you are being understanding. You think you are being loyal. You think love means patience, and sometimes patience is necessary. Every healthy relationship goes through difficult seasons. People do struggle. People do become tired. People do go through grief, stress, fear, confusion, and personal problems. But there is an important difference between being patient with someone who is struggling and endlessly tolerating someone who has stopped showing up. Compassion should not require self-abandonment. You can understand why someone behaves a certain way without giving them permission to keep hurting you. You can say, "I understand that you are going through something," while also saying, "But I cannot keep accepting this behavior." Both can be true at the same time. You do not need to hate someone before you create distance. You do not need to prove that they are a terrible person. This is where many people get stuck. They think they need a dramatic reason to leave. They wait for betrayal. They wait for a cruel argument. They wait for some clear event that gives them permission to finally walk away. But sometimes there is no dramatic ending. Sometimes there is only a slow pattern. You feel less important. You feel more confused. You feel emotionally tired. You are doing more. They are doing less. And deep down, you already know what that pattern means. Not every relationship ends because someone is evil. Sometimes people simply want different things. One person wants closeness. The other wants convenience. One person wants commitment. The other wants access without responsibility. One person wants emotional honesty. The other wants to avoid every difficult conversation. One person wants to build something. The other wants to keep things uncertain. That kind of relationship can be especially painful because it gives you just enough hope to stay. If someone treated you badly every single day, leaving might be easier. But when they are kind sometimes, attentive sometimes, loving sometimes, you keep waiting for that version of them to return. You remember the good days, you remember the long conversations, you remember the promises. You remember the moments when they made you feel important. Then you compare those moments to how things are now, and you think, maybe we can get back there. So you chase the past. You chase the person they used to be. You chase the version of the relationship that may no longer exist. This is where detachment becomes necessary. Detachment means you stop arguing with the evidence in front of you. If someone repeatedly behaves as though you are not a priority, stop trying to convince yourself that you are. If you constantly have to ask for basic communication, notice that. If you constantly feel uncertain about where you stand, notice that. If every serious conversation ends with temporary promises but no lasting change, notice that. Patterns matter more than apologies. Patterns matter more than promises. Patterns matter more than one good day after 10 painful ones. The truth is that healthy relationships can have problems, but they should not force you to live in constant emotional confusion. You should not have to wake up every day wondering where you stand. You should not feel like you must earn basic attention. You should not feel afraid that speaking honestly will make someone disappear. You should not have to keep proving that your feelings deserve consideration. When confusion becomes constant, it often means your mind is trying to protect an attachment that your intuition has already questioned. Part of you knows something is wrong, but accepting it means accepting the possibility of losing the person, and that scares you. So instead of accepting the evidence, you chase more clarity. You ask, did I do something wrong? You ask, are we okay? You ask, do you still care? You ask, why have you changed? You ask, is there someone else? You ask, can we fix this? They give you enough reassurance to calm you. They tell you that everything is fine. They tell you they still care. They tell you that you are overthinking. For a few days you relax. Then the same behavior returns. Now you need another conversation, another explanation, another promise, another moment of reassurance. This cycle can continue for months or even years, and eventually the relationship is no longer held together by mutual effort. It is held together by your fear of losing it. Your anxiety becomes the glue. That is not connection. That is emotional survival. And anything held together by fear will eventually exhaust you. The first act of real detachment is simple, but not easy. Stop running behind what keeps moving away from you. Do not chase a conversation someone keeps avoiding. Do not chase affection from someone who gives it only when they feel like it. Do not chase invitations. Do not chase explanations. Do not chase people who disappear whenever responsibility enters the room. Do not keep proving that you deserve to be treated well. The more you chase someone who is withdrawing, the more you teach yourself that their attention is more valuable than your dignity. You must reverse that lesson. Let distance give you information. Let silence give you information. Let inconsistency give you information. Let lack of effort give you information. Then act on what you learn. Not with anger, not with drama, not with long speeches, quietly. Reduce your investment where there is no reciprocity. Stop filling every silence. Stop rescuing every connection. Stop fixing every misunderstanding alone. Stop being the only person fighting for something that supposedly matters to both of you. Then watch what happens. Some people will notice the change and step forward. They will communicate. They will make effort. They will meet you halfway. Other people will allow the connection to disappear. That may hurt, but it gives you something valuable. Truth. You finally learn what was mutual and what survived only because you kept carrying it. And once you see that clearly, something begins to change inside you. You stop asking, how can I make them stay? You start asking, why am I working so hard to keep someone who is comfortable losing me? That question can change your entire life, because the moment you stop chasing what is already moving away from you, You create space for something much more important. You create space to return to yourself. Chapter 2. Stop making someone else's attention your source of worth. Attention can become one of the most dangerous things to depend on, not because attention is bad. Everyone wants to feel seen. Everyone wants to feel appreciated. Everyone wants to know that they matter to someone. The problem begins when another person's attention becomes the main source of your confidence. A message arrives, and suddenly your mood improves. They compliment you, and you feel attractive. They call you, and you feel important. They become distant, and now you question everything. You start wondering whether you said something wrong. You wonder whether they have lost interest. You wonder whether someone else has taken your place. You wonder what changed. Without realizing it, you have allowed another person to control how you feel about yourself. Their attention becomes emotional fuel. When it is present, you feel good. When it disappears, you feel empty. That is where attachment becomes dangerous. You are no longer simply enjoying someone's presence. You are depending on their presence to feel valuable. And once their attention becomes necessary, you may begin tolerating things you once said you would never accept. You accept inconsistency because their occasional affection feels better than complete absence. You accept being ignored because when they finally return, the relief feels powerful. You accept disrespect because you are afraid that standing up for yourself might push them away. You silence your feelings. You become easier, quieter, more available, more forgiving than you should be. You begin changing yourself to remain chosen. This can happen so slowly that you barely notice. At first, you simply want the relationship to work. Then you start adjusting yourself. You stop mentioning what bothers you because you do not want to create conflict. You stop asking for clarity because you are afraid the answer might hurt. You accept mixed signals because at least they are still giving you something. Eventually, you are no longer asking, "Is this relationship healthy for me?" You are asking, "What do I need to do so they do not leave?" That question changes your entire position. Now they hold the power, and you become the person trying to earn something that should never have required begging in the first place. This is why detachment begins with one important realization. Another person's attention does not create your worth. It can recognize your worth, it can appreciate your worth, but it does not create it. You existed before they noticed you. You had value before they sent the first message. Your intelligence did not suddenly appear when they praised you. Your beauty did not begin when they found you attractive. Your kindness did not become real because they appreciated it. And none of those qualities disappear because someone loses interest. One person's changing feelings do not change your identity. Think about that carefully. People change. Their moods change. Their preferences change. Their priorities change. Their circumstances change. If your self-worth is tied to their attention, then your confidence will constantly rise and fall based on things you cannot control. That is an unstable way to live. You need something deeper. You need to know who you are even when nobody is clapping. You need to know your value even when nobody is choosing you. You need to be able to look at rejection and say, "This hurts, but it does not define me." Rejection is painful because the mind often turns it into a judgment. Instead of saying, "This person does not want the same thing I want," you say, "Something must be wrong with me." Instead of saying, "We may not be compatible," you say, "I am not enough." Instead of saying, "They chose differently," you say, "I must be less valuable." That interpretation creates unnecessary suffering. Rejection does not always mean inferiority. Sometimes it means different values, different timing, different needs, different levels of emotional readiness. Sometimes someone is not capable of giving you what you want. Sometimes they simply prefer something else. And yes, sometimes rejection can reveal areas where you need to grow. Maybe your communication needs work. Maybe your emotional habits are unhealthy. Maybe you need stronger boundaries. Maybe you have your own patterns to improve. But needing growth does not make you worthless. Every human being has areas to work on. Growth and self-rejection are not the same thing. You can improve without hating yourself. You can take responsibility without deciding that you are unworthy. You can learn from rejection without making it your identity. This is where self-respect becomes more important than validation. Validation says, "Tell me I am good enough." Self-respect says, "I am going to build a life that makes me trust myself." That is stronger. Real self-respect is not created only by repeating positive phrases. It grows through evidence. You say you are going to wake up earlier, and you do it. You say you are going to stop contacting someone who repeatedly disrespects you, and you follow through. You say you will save money, and you do. You say you will take care of your body, and you begin. You say you will finish something, and you finish it. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you create evidence that you can be trusted. That evidence becomes confidence. And confidence built through action is far stronger than confidence built only through attention. This is why one of the best ways to detach from external validation is to build a life you respect. Develop skills, improve your health, take responsibility for your finances, learn something difficult, create routines, take care of your environment, become more disciplined, become someone who does not need constant reassurance because your own actions are giving you reasons to believe in yourself. When you start doing this, relationships begin to change. You stop accepting crumbs. You stop becoming excited by the bare minimum. A late-night message after days of silence no longer feels like a miracle. Someone remembering you only when they are lonely no longer feels romantic. Attention without consistency stops impressing you. You begin asking better questions. Not, "Do they like me?" but, "Do I like the way I feel around them?" Not, "Do they want me?" but, "Are they capable of building something healthy with me?" Not, "How can I keep their attention?" but, "Why should their attention be more important than my standards?" These questions return power to you. A person with low self-worth often asks to be chosen. A person with strong self-respect also chooses. That difference changes everything. You begin evaluating people instead of endlessly trying to impress them. You ask whether their character fits your life, whether their communication is healthy, whether their actions match their words, whether they make your life more stable or more confusing. You stop assuming that being wanted is enough, because it is not. Someone can want you and still treat you badly. Someone can miss you and still be wrong for you. Someone can be attracted to you and still be emotionally unavailable. Attention is not the same as respect. Desire is not the same as commitment. Interest is not the same as consistency. Learn those differences. They will protect you. And when someone pulls away, you no longer collapse. You may feel disappointed. You may feel sad. You may miss them. But you do not immediately begin questioning your entire value. You stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" You begin saying, "Their choice is information. It is not my identity." That is emotional independence. You can care about people without handing them complete authority over how you see yourself. You can enjoy affection without becoming addicted to it. You can appreciate compliments without needing them to survive. You can experience rejection without turning against yourself. And once you reach that point, you stop chasing attention. You stop performing for acceptance. You stop trying to remain important in someone else's life at the cost of becoming unimportant in your own. That is when detachment becomes powerful, because you are no longer waiting for another person to convince you that you matter. You have started building a life that proves it to you every day. Chapter 3. Accept people as they are, not as you keep hoping they will become. One of the most painful forms of attachment is not attachment to a person. It is attachment to their potential. You are not always holding on because of who they are right now. Sometimes you are holding on because of who you believe they could become. You have seen small glimpses of it. A thoughtful conversation, a kind moment, a sincere apology, a promise that sounded real, a few days when everything felt different, a version of them that made you think, this is the person I have been waiting for. And once you see that version, you start building hope around it. You imagine that if they heal, if they mature, if they become more serious, if they learn how to communicate, if they finally understand your value, then everything will work. So you stay attached to what might happen. You wait for potential to become reality. This can keep people stuck for years. Because potential is powerful, it creates imagination, and imagination can be much harder to leave than reality. Reality may be inconsistent. Reality may be disappointing. Reality may be emotionally exhausting. But your imagination keeps showing you a better future. You think about what the relationship could become. You think about what the person could become. You think about how different everything would feel if they finally changed. And every time reality disappoints you, you return to hope. That is where attachment becomes dangerous. You stop relating to the person in front of you. You start relating to the version of them that exists in your mind. This is why one of the strongest forms of detachment is learning to accept people exactly as they are. Not as you wish they were, not as they promise they will become, not as they were during their best week, not as they might become 5 years from now, as they are today. This does not mean people cannot change. People absolutely can change. They can grow. They can become healthier. They can become more mature. They can improve the way they communicate. They can become more disciplined. They can become more responsible. But possibility is not the same as evidence. You must learn the difference between someone who could change and someone who is actually changing. That difference matters. A person can say, I am working on myself, but what does their behavior show? A person can say, I am trying to be better, but are the same patterns still repeating? A person can say, I understand what I did, but have their choices changed? Words can describe intention. Behavior reveals direction. This is why you should stop asking, could they become the person I need? Ask, are they becoming that person now? Stop asking, do they have a good heart? Ask, does their behavior make this relationship healthy? Stop asking, do they love me? Ask, is their way of loving me something I can live with? These questions are harder because they remove fantasy, but they also protect you from wasting your life. Sometimes a person may truly care about you and still not be capable of giving you the relationship you need. That is a difficult truth. Love does not automatically create compatibility. Feelings do not automatically create emotional maturity. Attraction does not automatically create commitment. History does not automatically create a healthy future. You can love someone deeply and still be wrong for each other. You can care about someone and still recognize that the relationship is damaging you. You can see their good qualities and still decide that those qualities are not enough to build something stable. This is where many people get trapped. They think walking away means denying the good. It does not. You can acknowledge that someone is kind in certain ways. You can acknowledge that they helped you. You can acknowledge that you shared beautiful moments. You can appreciate what was real and still say, this relationship is no longer right for me. You do not need to rewrite the entire story to justify leaving. The person does not need to become a villain. Sometimes the truth is much simpler. They are not able or willing to meet you where you are, and you are no longer willing to keep waiting. That is enough. People often waste years trying to love someone into becoming different. They explain, they encourage, they forgive, they give more chances, they become more patient, they try to create a safe environment for the other person to grow. And while some support is healthy, there is a point where support turns into carrying. You start doing the emotional work for both people. You become their therapist, their teacher, their rescuer. their constant source of reassurance, their reminder, their motivator, their excuse maker. Then you wonder why you are exhausted. Because you are no longer simply in a relationship. You are managing a project, and the project is another human being. That is not your job. You can support people. You cannot do their growth for them. You can encourage them. You cannot force them to become ready. You can communicate what you need. You cannot make them care enough to respond. You can set a boundary. You cannot force them to respect it. This is where detachment returns your power. Instead of trying to control who they become, you start deciding what you will do if they remain exactly as they are. That question changes everything. Ask yourself, if this person never changes, can I live with this? If the answer is no, pay attention. Do not build your future around a change that has not happened. Do not commit your life to a promise. Do not sacrifice years waiting for someone to become who they keep saying they will become. Judge patterns, not possibilities. Look at what has been happening consistently. How do they handle conflict? How do they treat you when they are upset? Do they take responsibility? Do they keep promises? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they make an effort when things become difficult? Can they communicate honestly? Can they hear your concerns without turning everything back on you? These things matter more than chemistry. They matter more than intense feelings. They matter more than the future you imagined, because relationships are not lived in imagination. They are lived in everyday behavior. Sometimes accepting someone as they are will bring you closer. You may realize that you were expecting them to be someone they never claimed to be. You may understand that your expectations were unrealistic. You may learn to appreciate them without constantly trying to change them. That can improve a relationship. But sometimes acceptance does the opposite. Sometimes acceptance makes you see clearly that you are not compatible. And that clarity is valuable. You stop fighting reality. You stop saying, why cannot they just be different? You stop asking, what more do I need to do? You stop blaming yourself for their limitations. You simply see them, and once you see them clearly, you can make a decision based on truth, not hope, not fear, not fantasy. Truth. Detachment means saying, you are allowed to be who you are, and I am allowed to decide whether who you are fits the life I am trying to build. That is not cruelty. That is maturity. You do not have to change everyone. You do not have to save everyone. You do not have to keep waiting for everyone. Your responsibility is not to turn people into what you need. Your responsibility is to recognize reality and respond wisely. Because the moment you stop falling in love with potential, you begin making decisions based on what is actually in front of you. And that is when you stop wasting years waiting for a future that may never come. Chapter 4. Learn to tolerate the discomfort of letting go. One of the biggest reasons people stay attached to unhealthy relationships is not because they do not know what is happening. Most of the time they know. They know the relationship is draining them. They know they are doing too much. They know the same problems keep repeating. They know they have already explained themselves many times. They know they are being treated in ways they would never recommend to someone they love. But knowing is not always enough, because the real challenge is not recognizing what needs to end. The real challenge is tolerating how ending it feels. You can know that someone is wrong for you and still miss them. You can know that a friendship has become one-sided and still feel lonely without it. You can know that someone keeps hurting you and still want to hear their voice. This is what makes detachment difficult. Your mind can understand something before your emotions are ready to accept it. So you create distance. You stop reaching out. You tell yourself, this time I am done. For a few days, you feel strong. Then the silence becomes uncomfortable. You remember the good moments. You start wondering what they are doing. You wonder whether they miss you. You imagine them talking to someone else. You feel guilty. You feel lonely. Then you begin questioning the decision you were sure about only days earlier. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should give them one more chance. Maybe they have changed. Maybe I should just check on them. Then you reach out. For a moment, the discomfort disappears. You feel relief. You hear from them again. The connection returns. And because the pain of separation is temporarily gone, you convince yourself that going back was the right decision. But then the same patterns return, the same distance, the same confusion, the same disrespect, the same emotional exhaustion. And soon you are back where you started. This cycle can repeat for months or years. Distance, discomfort, return, relief, pain, distance again. The problem is that you keep interpreting discomfort as evidence that letting go was wrong. But discomfort does not always mean you made the wrong decision. Sometimes discomfort means you are finally breaking a habit. Think about how habits work. If you are used to checking your phone every few minutes, putting it away feels uncomfortable. If you are used to eating something every night, stopping creates cravings. If you are used to sleeping late, waking early feels difficult at first. The discomfort does not mean the old habit was good for you. It means your mind became accustomed to it. Relationships can become habits too. You become used to hearing from someone, used to checking their messages, used to thinking about them, used to their approval, used to their presence, used to the cycle of distance and reunion. So when you detach, your mind reacts. It wants what is familiar. And familiarity can feel safe even when it is unhealthy. This is one of the most important things to understand about letting go. The familiar is not always healthy. It is simply familiar. Sometimes a painful relationship feels safer than being alone because you already know how the pain works. You know what to expect. You know how the arguments happen. You know how the silence feels. You know how they return. You know how you forgive. You know the whole pattern. Being alone feels uncertain, and uncertainty can be frightening. So the mind chooses familiar pain over unfamiliar freedom. Real detachment requires you to reverse that habit. You have to become willing to feel uncomfortable without immediately running back to what caused the problem. You need to learn that missing someone is not a command. You can miss them and still not contact them. You can feel lonely and still not return. You can feel guilty and still protect your boundaries. You can love someone and still understand that access to your life is no longer healthy. Feelings are real, but feelings are not always instructions. This is where emotional strength is built. You feel the urge to reach out, but you wait. You feel the urge to check their page, but you resist. You feel the urge to ask someone what they are doing, but you bring your attention back to yourself. Every time you do this, the urge loses a little power. Not immediately, not magically, but gradually. You begin learning that emotions rise and fall. A strong feeling can make you believe it will last forever. It will not. Loneliness comes in waves. Missing someone comes in waves. Guilt comes in waves. Even intense sadness changes. If you do not react to every wave, it eventually passes. This is why you must become careful with nostalgia. Nostalgia can become one of the strongest enemies of detachment. When you feel lonely, the mind suddenly becomes very selective. It remembers the laughter, the late-night conversations, the trips, the affection, the small moments that made you feel close, and somehow it forgets the anxiety. It forgets the nights you could not sleep. It forgets how many times you were ignored. It forgets the promises that were broken. It forgets how small you felt. It forgets how tired you were. The mind starts showing you a highlight reel and calling it the full story. Do not let nostalgia rewrite history. You are allowed to remember the good. You are allowed to be grateful for beautiful memories. But remember the entire relationship. Do not use one beautiful moment to erase a repeated pattern. If you decided to create distance, there was a reason. Write those reasons down if you need to. Write what happened. Write how often it happened. Write what you asked for. Write what changed and what did not. Write how you felt inside the relationship. Then when loneliness tries to convince you that everything was perfect, read your own words. Let facts balance emotion. There may also be guilt. This is especially common if you are used to being the person who always forgives, always helps, always answers, always stays. The moment you choose yourself, part of you may say, you are being selfish. But guilt does not always mean you are doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt simply means you are doing something unfamiliar. If you spent years putting everyone else first, putting yourself first will feel wrong at the beginning. Not because it is wrong, because it is new. You may have been taught that love means endless patience, that being a good person means never walking away, that setting boundaries means you are cold. But boundaries are not cruelty. Distance is not always punishment. Sometimes distance is the only thing that stops a damaging pattern from continuing. You need to understand another truth. You do not have to stop loving someone before you let them go. People often wait for their feelings to disappear completely. They think, once I stop caring, then I will move on. That may take a very long time. Sometimes you move on while you still care. Sometimes you choose distance while part of you still wants closeness. Sometimes you walk away with love still in your heart. That does not make the decision wrong. It simply means your wisdom became stronger than your attachment. And slowly, the emotional bond begins to weaken. One day you realize you went a whole morning without thinking about them, then one day without checking, then several days. Their name stops creating the same reaction. Their absence stops feeling like an emergency. You begin filling your time with your own life again. And that is when you understand something powerful. You were not incapable of living without them. You were simply uncomfortable learning how. The discomfort was temporary. The lesson was permanent. You discover that letting go is not one dramatic decision. It is a series of small decisions. Not sending the message, not checking, not reopening the same conversation, not returning simply because you feel lonely, not betraying yourself just to remove temporary discomfort. That is how detachment becomes real. You stop asking, how do I make this feeling disappear? And you start telling yourself, I can feel this without going backward. That is strength. Because once you can tolerate the discomfort of letting go, you stop being controlled by the fear of losing people. And when that fear loses control over you, you finally become free to choose what is actually healthy for your life. Chapter 5. Stop over-explaining yourself. One of the clearest signs that you are too attached to other people's approval is that you cannot tolerate being misunderstood. Someone questions your decision and you immediately start explaining. Someone does not like your boundary and you give them a long list of reasons. Someone accuses you of being selfish and you rush to prove that you are not. Someone becomes distant after you say no, and suddenly you feel responsible for fixing their reaction. You start sending long messages. You explain what you meant. You explain what you did not mean. You explain why you made the decision. You explain your feelings. You explain your intentions. You explain the history behind it. And somehow, even after all that explaining, you still do not feel understood, so you explain again. This is exhausting. And the deeper problem is that over-explaining often comes from fear. You are afraid someone will think badly of you. You are afraid they will leave. You are afraid they will tell a story about you that makes you look like the problem. You are afraid that if they do not agree with your decision, then maybe your decision is wrong. So instead of simply communicating, you start defending your right to have boundaries. That is where self-respect begins to disappear. Healthy communication is important. Sometimes you do need to explain yourself. If you made a mistake, clarity matters. If someone genuinely misunderstood what happened, a calm explanation can help. If your actions affected someone, they may deserve context. But there is a big difference between explaining and begging for permission. Explaining says, "This is why I made this choice." Begging says, "Please agree with my choice so I can feel okay about making it." That difference matters. You are allowed to make reasonable decisions even if other people do not like them. You are allowed to say no without turning it into a 10-minute speech. You are allowed to leave a situation that is not healthy for you. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to protect your time. You are allowed to become less available. You are allowed to stop participating in conversations that keep damaging you. And none of these things require unanimous approval. Some people will understand. Some people will not. That is part of life. The problem is that when you are deeply attached to approval, disagreement feels like danger. You feel like you must restore harmony immediately. So you soften your boundary. You add excuses. You apologize even when you have done nothing wrong. You make the other person's comfort more important than your own clarity. For example, imagine someone invites you somewhere and you do not want to go. A simple response could be, "I cannot make it tonight, but I hope you have a good time." That is enough. But if you are afraid of disappointing them, you might say, "I am so sorry. I really wanted to come. Please do not think I do not care. I have just been very tired, and there is a lot going on, and maybe I can make it up to you next week." Notice what happened. You are not simply declining. You are trying to control their emotional reaction. You are trying to make sure they do not think negatively about you. That is not always possible. People are allowed to feel disappointed. You do not have to rescue them from every uncomfortable feeling. This becomes even more important when you begin setting stronger boundaries. The moment you stop overgiving, some people may accuse you of changing. The moment you stop answering every message immediately, someone may say you have become distant. The moment you stop solving everyone's problems, someone may say you are selfish. The moment you say, "I cannot keep doing this," someone may try to make you feel guilty. Do not be surprised. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries may not celebrate your growth. They may prefer the version of you who was easier to access, easier to persuade, easier to guilt, easier to control. If someone was comfortable receiving unlimited time, attention, forgiveness, and emotional labor from you, your new boundaries may feel like a loss to them. That does not make your boundary wrong. It simply means the relationship is changing. You have to become strong enough to let people misunderstand the version of you they no longer have access to. This is difficult because many people were taught from childhood to be agreeable. They learned that being a good person means keeping everyone happy. They learned to avoid conflict. They learned to explain themselves whenever someone became upset. They learned to take responsibility for other people's emotions. So when they finally start setting boundaries, they feel guilty. But guilt is not always proof that you are doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt is simply the feeling of breaking an old pattern. You can feel guilty and still make the right decision. You can feel uncomfortable and still say no. You can feel nervous and still hold your boundary. This is where detachment becomes powerful. Detachment teaches you that you are responsible for your behavior. You are not responsible for controlling every interpretation of your behavior. Those are not the same thing. If you lie, manipulate, insult, or mistreat someone, then yes, you should take responsibility. But if you calmly make a healthy decision and someone chooses to interpret it negatively, that interpretation belongs to them. You cannot live your life trying to correct every story people create about you. Some people have already decided how they want to see you. You could explain for hours and they would still misunderstand. Why? Because sometimes misunderstanding is not caused by lack of information. Sometimes it is caused by unwillingness. A person may understand exactly what you are saying and simply not like what it means for them. They may understand your boundary but dislike losing access. They may understand why you are stepping back but dislike being held accountable. They may understand that you are tired but still prefer that you continue giving. No amount of explanation will change someone who does not want to accept the message. That is why you need to learn when to stop talking. Say what is necessary. Be clear. Be respectful. Then stop. Do not keep turning your life into a courtroom. Do not keep presenting evidence to people who have already decided the verdict. Your peace of mind depends on learning that not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Sometimes silence is not avoidance. Sometimes it is completion. You already said what needed to be said. You already explained once. The conversation does not need another paragraph. The boundary does not need another justification. This is especially important when dealing with people who use your explanations against you. The more you explain, the more material they have to argue with. You say, "I need some space." They ask why. You explain. Then they challenge every reason. Now you are defending your feelings. You explain again. They find another point to debate. Before long, the conversation is no longer about your boundary. It is about whether they can convince you to remove it. Do not fall into that trap. A boundary is not a negotiation simply because someone dislikes it. "I am not comfortable with that." That can be enough. "I am not available." That can be enough. "I have decided not to continue this." That can be enough. You do not need to become rude. You do not need to become cold. You simply need to become clear. Clarity is powerful because it removes unnecessary emotional drama. When you stop over-explaining, you start seeing people more clearly too. Some will respect your answer even if they do not like it. Others will keep pushing. That difference tells you a lot. People who respect you can tolerate a boundary. People who only value access may challenge every limit you create. Pay attention. Your boundaries reveal character. And sometimes the people who become most upset by your boundaries are the ones who benefited most from you not having any. You also need to accept another uncomfortable truth. Some people will talk about you. Some people will misunderstand you. Some people will create a version of the story where they are right and you are wrong. Let them. You cannot control every conversation that happens when you are not in the room. You cannot manage every opinion. You cannot chase every rumor. At some point, you have to decide whether you want to spend your life living according to your values or living according to other people's reactions. Choose your values. If you know you acted with honesty, respect, and self-control, let that be enough. Not everyone has to approve of you. Not everyone has to understand you. Not everyone has to agree with how you choose to live. Detachment means allowing people to have their opinions without making those opinions your identity. You stop saying, "How do I make them see me correctly?" And you start asking, "Am I living in a way I can respect?" That question is much more important, because the moment you stop over-explaining yourself, you stop asking permission to exist as you are. You become clearer, stronger, calmer, and much harder to control through guilt. You realize that being misunderstood is uncomfortable, but it is survivable. And once you understand that, you no longer need to betray yourself just to make sure everyone else feels comfortable with your choices. Chapter 6. Stop confusing love with access. One of the most important lessons in detachment is understanding that loving someone does not mean they must have unlimited access to you. Many people confuse these two things. They believe that if they care about someone, they must always answer, always forgive, always be available, always listen, always give another chance, always leave the door open. And when they finally try to create distance, they feel guilty. They think, "If I really loved them, I would not walk away." But that is not always true. You can love someone and still recognize that being close to them is unhealthy for you. You can care about someone and still decide that they no longer deserve the same level of access to your time, attention, emotions, or private life. You can forgive someone without returning to the same relationship. You can wish someone well without allowing them to keep hurting you. Love does not automatically require access. This is where many people stay trapped. They think distance means hatred. They think boundaries mean anger. They think reducing contact means punishment. But sometimes distance is not punishment at all. Sometimes distance is simply the healthiest response to repeated behavior. Imagine your home. You may care about many people. You may be kind to many people. You may respect many people. But that does not mean you give everyone a key to your front door. A key represents trust. It represents access. It means this person can enter a private part of your life. Emotional access should work the same way. Not everyone should have a key. Not everyone should know your deepest fears. Not everyone should have immediate access to your attention. Not everyone should be able to call you at any time and expect you to stop everything. Not everyone should be able to return after hurting you and instantly receive the same place they had before. Access should be based on character. This is where people often make mistakes. They give access because of history. We have known each other for years. They give access because of chemistry. We have such a strong connection. They give access because of guilt. They have nobody else. They give access because of family. We are related, so I have to tolerate it. They give access because of fear. If I create distance, they may leave forever. But none of these things automatically make someone safe. Time does not always create trust. A person can know you for 10 years and still repeatedly disrespect you. Family does not automatically create emotional safety. Someone can share your blood and still manipulate you. Chemistry does not equal character. Someone can make you feel intense emotions and still be unreliable. History does not cancel repeated harm. You need to learn to separate emotional attachment from earned access. Ask yourself better questions. Does this person respect my boundaries? Can they hear the word no without punishing me? Can they disagree with me without becoming cruel? Can they take responsibility when they hurt me? Can they apologize without turning the apology into an excuse? Can they keep private things private? Do I feel safe being honest with them? Do their actions match what they say? Do they support my growth, or do they become uncomfortable when I change? These questions reveal whether closeness is healthy. Many relationships become painful because access was given too quickly. Someone makes you feel understood, and within weeks they know everything about you. You tell them your deepest wounds, your biggest fears, your family problems, your insecurities, your dreams, your weaknesses. You confuse emotional intensity with trust, but trust should be built slowly. Someone should show you who they are over time, not just when everything feels good. Pay attention to how people behave when they are disappointed. How do they react when they do not get what they want? How do they treat you during disagreement? What do they do with information you shared when you were vulnerable? Do they use it against you later? Do they respect your privacy after conflict? Character becomes visible under pressure. Anyone can seem kind when everything is easy. The real test comes when they are frustrated. This is why detachment requires patience before deep attachment. You do not need to give someone full access simply because you enjoy them. Let people earn closeness. Observe consistency. Observe responsibility. Observe how they treat others. Observe whether their words and actions remain aligned over time. This is not being suspicious. It is being wise. Another reason people struggle with access is forgiveness. You may believe that if you forgive someone, you must let them back into your life exactly as before. That is not true. Forgiveness and access are separate decisions. Forgiveness may mean releasing your desire to carry anger. Access means deciding whether someone has earned closeness again. Those are different things. Imagine someone repeatedly breaks your trust. They apologize. You may genuinely forgive them, but that does not mean trust instantly returns. Trust is rebuilt through changed behavior, not words, not tears, not promises, changed behavior. You can say, I do not hate you, but I cannot return to the same relationship. That is possible. You can say, I forgive what happened, but I need distance. That is possible too. You can care and still protect yourself. This becomes especially important with people who repeatedly return only when they need something. They disappear when life is going well. Then they come back when they are lonely. They need advice. They need support. They need money. They need someone to listen. And because you have a caring heart, you immediately reopen the door. Then once their crisis ends, they disappear again. Pay attention to the pattern. Some people do not miss you. They miss access to what you provide, your attention, your emotional support, your reliability, your resources, your willingness to solve problems. This can be painful to admit, but clarity is better than denial. You need to ask, do they value me, or do they value what I do for them? Those are not the same thing. One of the strongest ways to discover the answer is to stop over-functioning. Stop always rescuing. Stop always being available. Stop immediately solving every problem. Then watch what happens. Healthy relationships remain. Transactional relationships often weaken. This tells you something important. You are not losing a connection. You are discovering what the connection was based on. And this lesson becomes even more important as you grow. Sometimes people become attached to an older version of you. The version who always said yes. The version who tolerated disrespect. The version who never complained. The version who was available every hour. The version who apologized first, even when they did nothing wrong. Then you change. You become clearer. You become more disciplined. You protect your time. You stop tolerating certain behavior. And suddenly people say, you have changed. Yes, you have. Growth should change you. The goal is not to remain easy for everyone else to access. The goal is to become someone who knows what deserves access and what does not. Healthy people may need time to adjust to your growth, but they will eventually respect it. Unhealthy people may try to pull you back into your old role. They may guilt you. They may remind you of history. They may say, you never used to be like this. They may accuse you of becoming cold. Do not let those reactions make you abandon your progress. Sometimes people only like your kindness when it comes without boundaries. That is not real respect. Kindness without boundaries often becomes self-neglect. You can remain kind and still say no. You can remain compassionate and still protect your time. You can remain loving and still reduce access. You can wish someone well and still decide that you cannot continue walking closely with them. This is mature detachment. You do not need to hate anyone. You do not need to seek revenge. You do not need to punish anyone. You simply stop giving unlimited access to people who have repeatedly shown that they do not know how to handle it. Your attention matters. Your energy matters. Your time matters. Your private life matters. Your emotional stability matters. Treat them as valuable. Do not give them away simply because someone asks. Let access be earned through consistency, respect, honesty, responsibility, and trust. And if someone loses that access through repeated behavior, you are allowed to change the relationship. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to protect the life you are trying to build, because loving someone should never require you to keep giving them the power to damage you. Chapter 7. Return the energy you spend monitoring other people back to your own life. One of the most exhausting forms of attachment is constantly monitoring another person. You keep checking your phone, checking whether they replied, checking whether they saw your message, checking whether they posted something, checking whether they are online, checking who they follow, checking who follows them, checking whether their tone has changed, checking whether they seem colder than yesterday, checking whether they are giving someone else the attention you wanted from them. And the more you check, the less settled you feel. You think checking will give you clarity. Most of the time it gives you more questions. Why did they post but not reply? Why did they like that person's photo? Why are they online but not talking to me? Why did they sound warm yesterday and distant today? Why did they say they were busy but still had time to do something else? Your mind becomes a full-time investigator, and while you are investigating someone else's life, your own life is being neglected. That is the part many people do not notice. Attachment does not only hurt emotionally, it steals attention, and attention is one of your most valuable resources. Whatever repeatedly receives your attention begins receiving pieces of your life. If you spend hours thinking about someone, those hours are not going toward your work, your health, your goals, your learning, your family, your creativity, your finances, your future. You may say, "But I am not doing anything, I am just thinking." Thinking still uses energy. Mental energy is real. You can sit in one place all day and still feel exhausted because your mind has been running in circles. What did they mean? What should I say? Should I reach out? Should I wait? What if they leave? What if they come back? What if I lose them? This constant mental activity creates emotional fatigue. You wake up thinking about them. You fall asleep thinking about them. You are physically present in your own life, but mentally living inside theirs. That is not healthy attachment. That is loss of focus. And detachment begins when you stop asking, "What are they doing?" and start asking, "What am I doing with my own life?" That question may sound simple, but it can be uncomfortable, because sometimes monitoring another person becomes a distraction from yourself. As long as you are focused on them, you do not have to face your own unfinished life. You do not have to think about the goals you keep delaying. You do not have to look at the habits that need work. You do not have to face your loneliness directly. You do not have to admit how much of your identity has become tied to this connection, so your mind keeps returning to them. It is easier to analyze their behavior than to rebuild your own direction, but if you want your energy back, you must redirect your attention deliberately, not once, repeatedly. Every time your mind asks, "What are they doing?" bring it back. "What am I doing?" Every time you feel the urge to check whether they replied, do one thing that improves your own life. Finish a task. Read 10 pages. Go for a walk. Clean your room. Work on your business. Exercise. Study. Call someone who genuinely values you. Do something that moves your life forward. You are training your attention to return home. At first, this may feel forced. That is normal. If your mind has been focused on someone for months, it will not suddenly forget the habit in one day. You may pick up your phone without even realizing it. You may open an app automatically. You may type their name before you catch yourself. Do not turn this into another reason to attack yourself. Just notice it, then redirect, again and again. This is how new habits are built. There is another reason inconsistent relationships are so difficult to detach from. Unpredictable attention can become extremely powerful. If someone is loving one day and distant the next, your mind begins waiting for the next good moment. You do not know when it will come. That uncertainty makes you more focused on them. A message after 3 days of silence suddenly feels more exciting than a message from someone who speaks to you consistently. Why? Because the unpredictable reward feels stronger. You have been waiting, wondering, hoping, then suddenly they return. Your nervous system feels relief. You may mistake that relief for love. This is important to understand. Intensity is not always intimacy. Anxiety is not always chemistry. Relief is not always connection. Sometimes you feel intensely attached to someone because the relationship keeps activating fear and then briefly removing it. Distance creates anxiety. Their return creates relief. Then distance comes again. The cycle repeats. And you begin believing that this emotional intensity means the relationship is special. Sometimes it does not. Sometimes it simply means the relationship is unstable. Healthy connection can feel quieter. There is less guessing, less checking, less fear, less emotional whiplash. You know where you stand. You do not need to earn every moment of attention. You do not spend your day wondering whether the relationship still exists. For someone who is used to unstable relationships, that kind of consistency may initially feel less exciting, but do not confuse emotional chaos with depth. Something can feel intense and still be unhealthy. Something can feel calm and still be meaningful. Learn to value consistency over emotional drama. Then look honestly at what your attachment has cost you. How many hours have you spent thinking about someone who was not thinking about you with the same intensity? How many opportunities did you ignore because your mind was somewhere else? How many goals did you delay? How many conversations with good people did you barely notice because you were waiting for one person to reply? How many times were you surrounded by people who cared about you while mentally chasing someone who was distant? This is where detachment becomes an act of recovery. You are not only letting go of someone, you are recovering your attention. You are recovering your concentration. You are recovering your time. You are recovering your ability to be present in your own life. Start becoming curious about yourself again. What do you want to build? What skill have you always wanted to learn? What part of your life needs attention? What would improve if you gave it the same energy you give to overthinking someone else? Imagine putting that energy into your body, your work, your education, your finances, your creativity, your friendships, your family, your future. You would be surprised how quickly life can change when your attention stops leaking into situations you cannot control. This does not mean you must become constantly productive. Rest matters. Enjoyment matters. You do not have to turn heartbreak into a schedule full of work just to avoid feeling. Feel what you need to feel, but do not make monitoring someone else your main daily activity. Give your emotions space without giving them complete control over your time. If sadness comes, feel sad. If you miss them, acknowledge that you miss them, then return to your life. Do not turn one feeling into an entire day of checking. Do not turn one memory into 3 hours of analysis. Do not turn one unanswered message into a judgment about your worth. You need to create boundaries not only with people, but with your own attention. Tell yourself, I am not spending the next hour trying to solve something I cannot control. That is a boundary too. You cannot control whether they reply. You cannot control who they talk to. You cannot control what they feel. You cannot control whether they miss you. You cannot control what they post. But you can control what you do next. And every time you choose your own life over monitoring theirs, something changes. You become less emotionally dependent on information about them. You stop needing constant updates. You stop needing proof that they still care. You stop allowing every small action from them to change your entire day. Eventually, you reach a powerful point. You realize you no longer know what they are doing. And more importantly, you no longer need to know. Because your own life has become interesting again. Your goals are moving, your attention is focused, your days are full of things that matter to you. Your identity is no longer organized around whether someone is present or absent. This is what returning to yourself looks like. It is not one dramatic moment. It is the daily decision to stop sending your energy outward towards someone you cannot control and start investing it inward into a life you can actually change. You stop asking, why are they not choosing me? And you begin asking, why am I not choosing my own life? Then you act on the answer. That is when detachment stops feeling like loss. It starts feeling like recovery. Chapter 8. Choose self-respect over the fear of being alone. Many people stay in relationships they already know are wrong for them for one simple reason. They are afraid of being alone. Not necessarily because the relationship is good, not because they feel deeply understood, not because they are being treated well. Sometimes they stay because the thought of having nobody feels worse than the pain of having the wrong person. That fear can make you accept things you once believed you never would. You accept inconsistent attention because at least someone is there. You accept conversations that leave you feeling small because at least your phone is not completely silent. You accept emotional distance because you are afraid that complete separation will feel worse. You keep saying, "At least I have someone." But having someone is not always the opposite of loneliness. Sometimes the loneliest place you can be is inside a relationship where you constantly feel unseen. Think about that. You can be talking to someone every day and still feel alone. You can sleep beside someone and still feel emotionally abandoned. You can have hundreds of messages and still feel like nobody truly understands you. Physical presence is not the same as emotional connection. Access is not the same as intimacy. And being attached to someone does not automatically mean you are being loved in a healthy way. Sometimes staying with the wrong person makes loneliness worse because their presence constantly reminds you of what is missing. You keep reaching toward them. You keep hoping they will become more attentive. You keep waiting for closeness. You keep asking for basic emotional effort. And every time they fail to meet you there, you feel rejected all over again. That is a painful way to live. Eventually, the fear of being alone begins controlling your decisions. You stop asking, "Is this relationship good for me?" You start asking, "What if nobody else comes?" That question is dangerous, because once you believe this person may be your only chance at connection, your standards become negotiable. You tolerate more, you forgive faster, you ask for less. You make yourself easier to keep. You stop speaking honestly because you fear conflict. You stop setting boundaries because you fear they may leave. You stop choosing yourself because keeping them feels more important. And little by little, you lose something more valuable than the relationship. You lose trust in yourself. Every time you ignore what you know just to avoid being alone, you teach yourself that fear is stronger than your standards. You know the behavior is unacceptable. You stay. You know you are unhappy. You stay. You know you are constantly anxious. You stay. You know you have already had the same conversation 10 times. You stay. Eventually, you begin wondering why you do not respect yourself. The answer can be uncomfortable. Self-respect is not only something you feel, it is something you practice. You cannot repeatedly betray your own boundaries and still expect to feel strong inside. Every decision teaches you something about your relationship with yourself. When you stay somewhere simply because you fear loneliness, you are telling yourself, "Being with anyone is better than being with myself." That belief must be challenged. Being alone is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Being alone can be uncomfortable. It can be quiet. It can expose emotions you were avoiding. But being attached to the wrong person can cost you years. It can damage your confidence. It can distort your standards. It can make unhealthy behavior feel normal. It can keep you emotionally unavailable for healthier relationships. It can consume attention you should be giving to your own life. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness says, "There is nobody here, and I cannot handle it." Solitude says, "I am alone right now, and I can still build a meaningful life." That difference is learned. Nobody becomes comfortable with themselves automatically. You practice it. At first, an empty evening may feel strange. You may want to reach for your phone. You may feel the urge to contact the person you know is wrong for you. You may start remembering only the good moments. You may think, "Maybe I should just talk to them." But before you do, ask yourself something. Do I actually miss this relationship, or do I simply dislike being alone right now? Those are not the same thing. Sometimes you do not miss the person. You miss having someone to text. You miss the routine. You miss being wanted. You miss knowing someone is there. You miss having a distraction from yourself. And because those things were connected to one person, your mind tells you that you need that person back. You do not always need the person back. Sometimes you need to learn how to fill your life differently. This is where returning to yourself becomes important. Learn what you actually enjoy when nobody else is deciding how you spend your time. Maybe you stopped reading. Start again. Maybe you stopped exercising. Return to it. Maybe there is something you always wanted to learn. Begin. Maybe you neglected friendships while chasing one person. Reconnect with people who have shown genuine care. Maybe your environment has become chaotic. Fix it. Maybe you have goals you abandoned because your emotional life consumed all your energy. Bring them back. Do not make your entire recovery about distracting yourself. That is not the goal. The goal is to become someone whose life has substance, even when no relationship is currently filling the center of it. You should have something that belongs to you: your work, your interests, your routines, your values, your goals, your relationship with your own mind. The more solid your life becomes, the less frightening solitude feels. You stop looking for someone to rescue you from your own company. You begin discovering that being alone can also give you clarity. When nobody else is speaking into your life constantly, you begin hearing your own thoughts. What do you actually want? What kind of relationship would make sense for you? What did you tolerate simply because you feared losing someone? What standards did you lower? What warning signs did you ignore? What kind of person are you becoming? Solitude can answer questions that attachment often hides. That is why some people rush into a new relationship immediately after leaving an old one. They are not always searching for love. Sometimes they are escaping reflection. They do not want to sit with the emptiness. They do not want to face what happened. They want someone new to make the discomfort disappear. But if you never understand why you accepted the old pattern, there is a strong chance you will repeat it with someone new. Changing the person is not enough if the pattern inside you remains unchanged. Use time alone to study yourself, not to blame yourself, to understand yourself. Why did you fear losing them so much? What did you believe their presence said about your worth? What were you receiving from them that you were not giving yourself? Why did certain behaviors become acceptable? What will you do differently next time? These questions transform solitude into growth, and something powerful happens when you become comfortable enough with yourself. The threat of someone leaving loses much of its power. You no longer say, "Please stay, no matter how you treat me." You begin saying, "I would prefer you to stay, but not at the cost of my dignity." That is a completely different relationship. You can still care deeply. You can still be committed. You can still work through problems, but you are no longer negotiating from fear. You know that if the relationship ends, you will hurt. You will miss them. You may have difficult days, but you will survive. You will rebuild. You will continue. Once you truly know that, manipulation becomes harder. Someone cannot repeatedly threaten to leave and expect you to abandon every boundary. They cannot use silence to make you panic into apologizing. They cannot make you compete constantly for their attention. You are not fearless because losing people no longer hurts. You are stronger because you know pain will not destroy you. That is emotional independence. You stop clinging to people because you are terrified of emptiness. You choose people because the relationship is healthy, mutual, respectful, and meaningful. There is a huge difference between saying, "I need you because I cannot handle life without you," and saying, "I choose you because our lives are better when we walk together." The first comes from dependence. The second comes from strength. And healthy relationships need two people who are choosing each other, not two people holding each other hostage with fear. So if you are standing between two kinds of discomfort, choose carefully. There is the temporary discomfort of being alone, and there is the long-term discomfort of repeatedly abandoning yourself to keep someone. One hurts for a season. The other can slowly change who you become. Choose self-respect. Let the empty evenings teach you that you can survive them. Let silence teach you that you do not always need someone else's attention. Let solitude show you the parts of yourself you neglected. Build a life you do not constantly need another person to escape from. Then when someone enters your life, you will not ask them to complete you. You will ask whether they belong beside the person you have already become. And if they leave, you will not lose everything, because you will still have the one person you finally learned not to abandon, yourself. Detachment is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming clear, clear about what deserves your energy, clear about what deserves your time, clear about what kind of treatment you will no longer accept, clear about the difference between love and dependence, clear about the difference between connection and chasing. You do not need to hate people to let them go. You do not need to become angry to create distance. You do not need one final argument, one final explanation, or one final apology before you decide that enough is enough. Sometimes the strongest decision is simply to stop participating in what keeps draining you. Stop chasing people who keep moving away. Stop trying to prove your value to people who only recognize it when they need something. Stop waiting for someone to become the version of themselves you created in your imagination. Stop making another person's attention the measurement of your worth. Let people show you who they are. Then believe what you see. And after that, return your attention to the place where it has always belonged, your own life. There is still so much of you waiting to be developed. There are goals you have not touched because your mind was busy analyzing someone else. There are parts of yourself you neglected because you were constantly trying to keep another person close. There are standards you lowered because you were afraid of being alone. There are promises you made to yourself and then abandoned while trying to become important in somebody else's world. Return to those promises. Return to your discipline. Return to your values. Return to the things that make you respect the person you see in the mirror. You may still miss people. That does not mean you should go back. You may still remember beautiful moments. That does not erase the patterns that made you leave. You may still care. Caring does not require you to reopen a door that repeatedly led to the same pain. Real detachment is when you stop needing another person to change before you allow yourself to move forward. They may understand one day. They may not. They may regret losing you. They may not. They may return. They may disappear completely. Your life cannot remain suspended while you wait to see which one happens. Let them make their choices, then make yours. Choose the life that does not require you to constantly question your worth. Choose relationships where effort is mutual. Choose people who do not make basic respect feel like something you have to earn. Choose boundaries that protect your future. Choose your own growth even when someone else does not understand it. And most importantly, choose yourself before fear convinces you to abandon yourself again. Because the deepest purpose of detachment is not losing people. It is finding the parts of yourself you lost while trying to keep them. Your confidence, your direction, your standards, your attention, your time, your identity, yourself. Let people go where they choose to go. You do not have to follow. Your life is still waiting for you. Return to it.